Hello, my Chads! And as you already understood today, I have prepared for you an analysis of the 42nd episode of Skibidi Toilet Multiverse, which came out to be simply incredible this time, including its crazy duration. And in this video, I will make the most detailed and interesting analysis of this huge episode for you, and find all the Easter eggs and secrets that were hidden for us. What happened to Counter Titan in the end? And will we see him again? What other hint of a union between the Alliance and Skibidi Army did Dom's studio leave for us? And what new characters have appeared in this episode? And what role will they play in the future of the series? So if you want to know all the answers to these questions, then get your tea and snacks ready and prepare to watch this video very carefully so as not to miss one important detail. And I want to warn you that it will be very interesting. Let's go. So the first part of this episode continues the fight between Titan Pencilwoman and Counter Titan, which is under the control of C-Pen. And one of the very interesting things that I've noticed here is that in a fairly short time, C-Pen has figured out how to control his new toy well, and can quickly replicate different parts of the bodies of the Titans of the Alliance. And now let's move on from Counter Titan to Pencilwoman. In this episode, we saw many new abilities, the first of which is the generation of a painted shield capable of withstanding a shot from the Titan cameraman's energy cannon, as well as a trick with a pencil coming out of the ground. By the way, we have already seen something similar in the 28th episode during the first appearance of the bouncer Pencilman. And also during this episode, you can notice a rather interesting detail when during this fight, Counter Titan creates an eraser and begins to fend off a stream of different objects that Pencilwoman sends into him. And it was really cool. And there is also another reference here, as it seems to me, to the Doom series of games, when instead of the lost arm, the Titan of the Pencilman's race made herself a double-barreled shotgun, which is quite similar to the Doom guy's main weapon. Okay, well, and now let's move on to the dialogue that arose between these two characters, during which C-Pen said that Pencilwoman was not like the others, so he invited her to join him. And initially, when I first watched this episode, I thought that she would agree to go over to his side. However, not because his ideas are close to hers, but in order to ingratiate herself with him, as well as with the Master, the leader of an alien race. And when the right time comes, she would do something that would help the Alliance to finally defeat the Master. However, she could not accept his ideas in any way, and simply refused to cooperate with him, generally speaking, which is also logical in theory. But now I want to move on to what happened after Titan Pencilwoman went into rage mode, because what I saw just amazed me. Releasing all possible energy, she summons all the weapons of the Titans on the battlefield, as well as the huge arms and head of the Titan Drillman, after which she grabs the Counter Titan and simply tears him in half, after which she destroys him with the help of a Titan's laser. And this whole scene is one great reference to another project called Glitch Tale, where Sans, Papyrus, and Gaster fought against Betty. And I advise you to watch it after you'll finish my analysis. And after all that we have just seen, only a pile of metal remains from Counter Titan. But does that mean we won't see him again? I believe that he will appear in future episodes because something like this has already happened to him once, and the Titan's body was restored with the help of a purple cockroach, and I have several assumptions under what circumstances Counter Titan will return. Either the Master will try to bring back that purple cockroach so that he can restore the Titans' bodies again, or the alien race has a supply of these beetles and they use their energy for these purposes. However, it is quite possible that this is not the ability of the cockroaches, but of the robot itself, and after one of his parts is taken from the battlefield, it can be restored again without the help of these small creatures. And do you guys think it's possible to restore Counter Titan after what Pencilwoman did to him? Write your own theories in the comments, and I will definitely read them all. But now I want to talk about what happened to the Titan of the Pencilmen. After she managed to defeat her enemy, she began to crumble before her eyes, using all of her energy, as she was at the limit of her capabilities. And in fact, this turned out to be her weakness, because her every action essentially drains her vitality. And if Counter Titan had turned out to be a little stronger and could have survived this attack, he would eventually defeat her because after that she was no longer able to fight. And well, I would also like to draw your attention to one more detail, as during the battle, two letters S and T can be seen on the Pencilwoman's collar. And it is quite likely that this is some kind of abbreviation, and if that's really so, then my assumption is that it stands for Skibidi Toilet, And in my opinion, this is another hint that the Alliance and Skibidi toilets will become closer and eventually form a union with each other. And this is what this message says. So when Titan TV Man carries Ketsi off the battlefield, we finally see what the Pencilman's base looks like from the outside. And the most interesting thing here is that apparently it is invisible to prying eyes and can only be seen if you are an ally of the Pencilman, and this is thanks to these pencils stuck in the ground. Even in this episode, in addition to the classic Titans of the Alliance, the most beautiful woman also received an improvement. But we'll talk about this at the end of this analysis, so watch it until the very end, as well as give this video a like and subscribe to my channel if you like what I do for you. And finishing with the Pencilman, I want to note a couple of interesting things that can be noticed at their base. It's a lot of mugs with pencils inside, as well as a huge building that looks like a nuclear power plant or something like that. Well, and we were also shown a new TV man in the yellow shirt and with the yellow tie, who was very much interested in the saw of the same drill man who saved the Alliance's agents several times in critical situations. And immediately after the scene with the Pencilmen, we are getting transferred to the TV men's headquarters base, in which at the moment of resting, the Titans are receiving some upgrades. However, I already analyzed this scene when the trailer for this episode came out, and you can refresh your memory about it after watching this video. And I also don't want to repeat myself here so that this analysis would not take 2 whole hours, because I plan to actually make several separate videos on some topics that I would like to discuss during the analysis of the 42nd episode, so don't miss them. Well, and now let's move on to the most interesting part of this episode, the Clockman's plot arc. And as you may have noticed throughout this part, neither Titan Clockman nor Rolex Head Clock could do anything to Sinister. And in general, this is not surprising me at all, to be honest. He says that he is the source of the power for all the clocks, and that is exactly what I assumed in the analysis of the episode where he first appears, and therefore for me, as well as for those who watch my analyses, it was not a surprise as well. While Chief Clockman was trying to resurrect the Big Clockman, this huge monster was released from his imprisonment for a few moments so that the Chief could take away some of Sinister's powers. And apparently this was the biggest mistake, because thanks to this, the God of Time was able to recreate in his mind the infinite number of multiverses in single one of which he somehow tried to reach his own victory. And do you know what it actually reminded me of? Think of the movie Avengers Infinity War and the character of Doctor Strange, who did about the same thing and in a short period of time looked at all possible outcomes of future events and did everything so that in the end, the forces of good came to victory. And it's probably a reference to this movie or something like that. But I digressed here a bit, so let's go back to the actual episode. Among other things, Sinister reports that there are many ways to make him lose and asks Titan Clockman and his friend to try to stop the God of Time with all his might. And frankly, it's hard to imagine why he would say such a thing, but I want to talk about it a little later. In addition, you may have noticed some changes in the way Titan Clockman conducts the battle. Before one of his attacks, he says the words, "Order, infinite boost." And I assume that the word order helps him unleash the full potential of his powers. But why should it be the order specifically? And is he really ordering himself around? Most likely it is not what's happening, because remember how in the 30th episode we saw the spirit of Chief Clockman over the Titan? I think that the Chief of the Clockman did not actually die, but only his body was destroyed, while his spirit moved to Titan Clockman, and thanks to this he continues to control the Titan, and only he is able to fully unleash the power of Titan Clockman, and without the control of the Chief, the Titan will not be able to fight at his full strength. And the Infinite Boost Order turned out to be a really strong ability and was able to harm Sinister to some extent, but it turned out to be only an illusion, and the God of Time also turned out to be unharmed, and in the end was able to destroy the sword of Titan Clockman. And the most interesting thing is that the Titan could not restore his sword, as probably Sinister's forces somehow influenced this. And right after that, we finally find out what these devices on Sinister's belt were for. So it turned out that it was a gravitational field generator or something like that. And it turned out to be strong enough to overturn even this giant. But even Sinister's devices have their own weaknesses, and in this case it is the order of gravity reversed. However, this did not save him from a smackety smack right into his face. But despite this and everything that just happened before, Rolex Head Clock still manages to drag the God of Time into another dimension with the help of Time Strike. And most likely next season we will see what will really happen there, and how these guys will be able to defeat their opponent. and my opinion is that somebody will come to their aid. And it's probably going to be someone from the characters which we saw in this episode, but I want to tell you about it in the next video. And one of these characters is Aiza, and in my opinion, she looks suspiciously similar to the big Clockman, but apparently she is not from another universe, as I assumed in my last video. It is likely that in the universe of this series, there is another organization that is separate from the organization of the Clockmen whom we know. And I assume that in addition to the Clockmen, there are other races in this mysterious organization, and maybe this organization is an association that also includes all the Skibidi analysts. What do you think? In any case, after a short dialogue with her partner about the fact that the battle for the multiverse has finally begun, she flies into her portal to another dimension, most likely to the same as Titan Clockman and Sinister. Well, and finally we turn to the analysis of the final part of this huge episode, and the actions here take place immediately after the Titans of the Alliance received their new upgrades. And during the Alliance air raid, we see that the pilot of one of the planes is the legendary cameraman with a cigar who miraculously survived during the defense of the last Alliance base, which was destroyed by G-Man Apocalypse. At the end of the episode, Titans jump out directly at G-Man with the help of teleports of the Pencilmen, who are immediately surrounded by his clones. But these guys were not alone here, and Titan Pencilwoman, who was flying right above them at that moment, began using her new improvements to create clones of all Titans, including a new Titan that we did not see in this series, namely Tri-Titan from the universe of the Skibidi Wars. And this is a really cool detail that I actually liked in this episode. This guy immediately shows his coolness and destroys one of the G-Man clones. And this already shows his power, because in the previous episode, Titan Cameraman and Titan Speakerman received a beating from one of these toilets. And this is actually the end of the episode, and I assume that in the 43rd episode we will see the continuation of this particular battle between G-Man Apocalypse and the Titans. And in the midst of this battle, there will be an invasion of alien forces that will eventually force the Skibidi and the Alliance to unite at this moment. And that was all for today. Well, be sure that you subscribe to my channel so as not to miss new videos with theories and analyses. And it was me, Eso Chad. See ya!